Okay, hoser.
It is super cold today. Like, it's minus 35 Celsius out there. It's really cold tonight. It's pretty cold in here actually, so the furnace is rocking full time. I hope it's not too loud. You can see I'm wearing my toque. I hear a lot of you folks down south, you don't know what a toque is. This is a toque, a knit cap. Think Bob and Doug McKenzie. The best ones have like a pom-pom on top. So the plan for this evening, or plan is maybe too kind a word. I would say maybe plot is better. The cylinder is just loosely plumbed in here. So I'm going to fire up the tractor, put some transmission / hydraulic fluid in it, and get that filled up and check the level and make sure that this thing actually works and doesn't just straight up bypass and leak and everything horrible. And then I can carry on putting it together. The carb leaks fuel, so I might have a look at that and some other odds and ends, but basically get this thing wrapped up and out into the other garage so it's not taking up space in here. How weird this thing is set up. It's clearly not designed for this transmission. The way there's like a fitting tree off the bottom of the transmission that leads to the filter, and a return line, which is just a hose that hangs down kind of in the middle of nowhere off the bottom of the filter. And to add oil, you literally push the fitting tree up until the fitting touches the bottom of the transmission, and then you add oil until it appears in a T-fitting that you plug afterwards in this fitting tree. It's a very strange adaptation. I do have oil in it, so hopefully this thing will fire up. Well, I've got some fluid in here, but my phone's about to die, so rather than go through this whole process, I knew you guys weren't going to want to miss the startup, so let's fire it up. I've got fuel on. I haven't started it at all. It's ice cold, so we'll see what happens here if it goes, and then we'll call it a night. So, choke on. Throttle. Well, which way's up? It's opposite of what it says here, and you can hardly read what it says. That says idle, so that's where we're going to have it, because that's fast. All right, see what happens. What a great machine. Nothing happening yet on the hydraulic side. I mean, it's probably really low and needs more oil, but we'll deal with that another time. It runs, it's on there. Good enough for tonight. Alright, so I've got some oil in this thing, so I might try to drive it a little bit just to get fluid flowing through the transmission and make sure my level's correct, but I do want to make sure that our hydraulic cylinder is functioning. Geez, the paint's already taken a beating. Of course. So, that's kind of step one, I guess. Fire it up. hydraulic action, I noticed that the control valve is loose on its mount. So we'll have to look after that. Cylinder doesn't look like it's leaking though, which is great. I won't know if it's bypassing internally until I put it under some real load. And it doesn't seem to want to drive, but that's probably a function of still being low on oil. So I'm going to add some more oil and just keep going with this bit by bit. This filling process is tedious, to say the least. I did end up lifting this side up because the one time I pulled the plug out and it went blarp and a whole bunch of oil came out. But this seems to be sucking it in a lot better. Quite the process, but I'm glad that at least we have some drive, because I was really concerned that maybe without having oil in it for quite a while, that maybe the, oh interesting, the level's actually just kind of coming up here without adding anything. I'm not convinced that we have enough oil here. I'm going to add a little bit here. A couple drops. Probably a tablespoon. Oh, what a mess. What a mess. Some of these have a high-speed, low-speed valve under the seat that you can actually adjust. This one sadly doesn't. It seems to only basically have low speed. It's not a fast tractor, to say the least. And I have created a huge oily mess here. What I did do is I used a conduit nut on this elbow here because this was really floppy, and so with a conduit nut, actually you can tighten it up like a jam nut, and so that will help keep things from flopping around. Sure likes a little choke. Very quickly for day 3, because my throat really hurts, I thought instead of looking at the train cars, we'd look at some of the Corgi and Dinky toys that came along with the set. So these are all things that are well played with, in a lot of cases by myself. One of the more awesome ones is the tank transporter here. Can see, actually, interestingly, this tire has suffered some degradation, and yet none of the others have. So that's kind of interesting. But and I used in my younger days my artistic license and some model paint to customize the tank here, not knowing any better. But yeah, I spent many hours with this crane as well. It did used to have a string and hook, and that's kind of long gone. This is a Dinky SuperToys. I
believe this one is, yeah, it's a Dinky Toys. This little fellow, I guess, probably used to have a rocket that you could launch. Another Berliet Gazelle, so I guess that would be, or Berlier, so it'd be French. The rocket's long missing, I never did see one. This, I think, is newer vintage, just by the plastic wheels and whatnot. But it's in not too bad a shape. And of course, the ubiquitous black London Taxi. So I guess they're all Dinky Toys. I thought some of them were Corgi, but yeah, so lots of fun.
It's Sunday night, and I don't really have anything concrete planned. I just need to make some progress on the Gilsons. Might have a go at the carburetor, which does leak fuel unless it's shut off, so probably a stuck needle or something. I really haven't worked on the carb on this at all because it does start so well. So I'm just basically going to leave the camera rolling, and I'm going to edit out all the really boring stuff, which will probably be almost all of it. As far as the Everest actually goes, I used some Easy Off oven cleaner. That's kind of an old model building trick to remove those awful import racing decals from the side. And I don't know if that was the only thing kind of holding the hood together or if it was from the oven cleaner, but either way, it started to crack really badly. So that's really disappointing. I drilled some relief holes at the ends of the cracks, and I'm just really hoping that that'll slow things down, but I'm kind of at the point of patching it together. Finding a good used hood would be ideal, but they're pretty few and far between, or a new hood, which I can get, but it's, you know, it's a lot of money. Certainly kind of outside the scope of the intended use of that snowmobile. So that's where that's at. Kind of sucks. I did find out this system runs at about 500 psi ideally, so it's not a lot. It was hard to get out. It's going to be hard to get in. So pry bar's seen some worse days than that. There, woo, dang. All right. Tighten up the mounts for this hydraulic control valve for now. It is leaking, but that is maybe a problem for another date. Good enough. I've run into a strange problem here. I marked the cylinder before I took it apart, but the fitting at the front end of the cylinder, like the retract fitting, is contacting the steering gear, and it won't let it drop far enough to connect to the linkage, and I'm really not sure why all of a sudden that's an issue. I'm going to look back through some old footage and see if I somehow got it wrong, but not cool. All right, so you can see there where it's contacting, because somehow, even though I marked it, I've got this welded in the wrong orientation somehow. This should fit more at a 45, like over this way, to
clear the steering gear here. So I'm gonna have to put maybe a 45 in under here just to move this away. I don't know. What an ordeal. I don't know how that happened. I marked everything before we cut it apart, and it was pretty clear, but somehow it's still out of whack, so gonna have to, I really don't want to cut it apart again. So I will come up with an alternative. So in the meantime, this aspect is stuck, so I guess I'll pull the carburetor off and go from there. Yay!